Welcome to the video series exploring the medieval manuscript book. In this episode, I talk about medieval composite volumes. We think of books today as containing single texts, or in the case of an academic journal or short story collection, short texts which are linked by a single subject or written by the same author. Medieval manuscripts, however, often contain multiple texts. These could be, but were not necessarily, related to each other. Sometimes these texts were written separately, even in very different places and times, and came together only later into so-called composite volumes. They were combined in bindings for various reasons, perhaps because they had similar dimensions, or perhaps matched because they concerned similar themes. The first and last part of this 12th century manuscript contain a philosophical work and a work on agriculture. Records show that these texts were given to the Dutch monastery of Egmond by a previous owner, a monk named Deddo, in the mid-12th century. Their shared former ownership may have been a reason why these texts were later united at the monastery in this 15th century binding. The central parts of the book, however, originally circulated independently. You can see that these pages are quite dirty. This page was the end of the philosophical work formerly owned by Deddo, and you can see that someone has used the blank space on the page to practice writing their alphabet. While this page is the start of a short collection of religious works copied at the monastery of Egmond. A small collection of this type, only 10 leaves long, could easily be damaged or lost. Combining groups of texts in a single binding, even if they did not concern the same subject, helped to preserve them. For us as researchers, a compilation of this type, however random, tells us something about the kinds of works which were kept in a particular monastery at a particular time. Sometimes compilations of texts were planned, like this manuscript, possibly made for the cathedral library at Paderborn in Germany in the 12th century. A contemporary contents list on the flyleaf shows that its parts, which may have originally circulated independently, were united relatively early. These texts were copied in booklets, designed to be consulted independently. So you can see here that the start of a new text coincides with the start of a new quire, or gathering of leaves, with the space at the end of the previous text and quire filled with notes added by a user. It's likely that the majority of the texts in this manuscript were united into this single collection as they all concerned language and expression. They consist of letter collections, glossaries, notes on pronunciation, and measures. As the contents list shows, however, at some point, the collection was extended to contain new texts on different subjects. The list refers to computus, that is, texts which were used to calculate dates. And if we move to that part of the manuscript, we can see indeed that further gatherings of leaves were added to this collection containing computus texts. My final example of a composite book contains a mixture of manuscript and printed material, all concerning religious themes. Two parts of this book, dating from the circa 1500, are written by hand, while another 4 parts are printed. In this example, you can see that the handwritten text is here on the left, and the printed text here on the right. Combining written and printed media may not have struck the medieval user of this book as unusual. To him or her, they were all just texts. Composite manuscripts, therefore, can contain not only a wealth of different texts, but also a wealth of information about how medieval readers related to these texts and read certain works in conjunction. The growth and expansion of composite books of this type can be seen to mirror the growth of knowledge of their users. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Exploring the Medieval Manuscript Book. In the next episode, we'll take a look at the dimensions and forms of medieval manuscripts.